The James Webb Space Telescope made an astonishing discovery. This outstanding instrument at the forefront of astronomy took another important step by detecting an object from beyond our solar system that changes all our perceptions of extraterrestrial life. Inside the object named 3 and Atlas, new images were obtained that radically change our perception of this interstellar alien. It may not just be an inert mass, it shows signs of movement and is heading towards us. The story of 3 and Atlas began in early 2020 when astronomers noticed a mysterious object rapidly moving at the edge of our solar system. It was named 3 and Atlas and quickly became the third known interstellar object ever observed, after Oumuamua in 2017 and another object in 2019. However, Atlas turned out to be completely unique. At first, it was thought to be about 5 kilometers wide and shaped like an elongated cigar. However, 3 and Atlas did not behave like most comets. It glowed faintly and lacked the characteristic fiery tail that forms when ice evaporates under sunlight. Its trajectory was extremely elongated and originated from the depths of interstellar space, having no connection to our sun. The object's composition was strange and remarkably metallic. At the very beginning, Atlas was surrounded by a mystery shrouded in cosmic dust. But the greatest intrigue lay not only in its origin, but also in the direction it was moving and what it might be hiding. Scientists began tracking its course with growing anxiety, wondering whether it was natural or artificial. One hypothesis even suggested it could be a fragment or probe from another civilization, reminiscent of ancient speculations about Oumuamua. The mystery only deepened when spectroscopic observations from ground-based observatories revealed strange chemical traces in its tail, much more complex than the usual cometary decay products. But ground equipment alone was not enough to solve this mystery. Therefore, NASA turned to the most powerful tools in space, the James Webb Space Telescope. Launched in 2021, the James Webb was designed to look into the deepest corners of the universe. However, in the year 2020, he turned his gaze closer to the silent wanderer, slowly gliding through the cold expanses of space. Infrared detectors of the telescope recorded 3 and Atlas. At first, scientists expected to confirm the presence of a metallic core or exotic ices corresponding to interstellar origins, but instead, they received a real sensation. The data showed periodic bursts of thermal signals inside Atlas that changed over time, almost like a pulse. Using the medium infrared instrument MIRI, Webb detected spectral emissions that did not match any known mineral or chemical process. Inside the object, something was generating ordered heat at equal intervals. Then came the most unexpected surprise: movement. It was not just movement through space, but strange rotational changes that defied the gravity of the sun or known methods of propulsion. There was a sense that something internal was controlling its orientation with a clear intention. Scientists from NASA's Goddard Space Center were candid. At the moment, we have no natural model that could explain all observations related to the Webb body. Researchers began an in-depth analysis of data, comparing it with signals emitted by both known spacecraft and biological organisms, as well as radio waves. Surprisingly, some of these emissions had repeating mathematical patterns, too symmetrical for random origin, possibly artificial, and even biological. Before them was an object that had come from beyond our solar system, radiating heat, rotating with a specific purpose, and, if the analysis was correct, manipulating its energy in complex ways. The likelihood of extraterrestrial technology ceased to be marginal, and the more scientists researched, the more mysterious this object became. Signs of life in the abyss. Could something alive be inside this 5-kilometer block of interstellar metal and stone? Webb's sensors continued to scan not only for heat, but also for possible biosignatures, signs of metabolic activity, even in forms of life different from Earth's. And the data became increasingly intriguing. Using a method known as transmission spectroscopy, Webb recorded unusual fluctuations in the mid-infrared absorption lines. Some of them matched what is observed in extremophils, earthly organisms capable of surviving in radioactive, acidic, or anoxic environments. But there were also anomalous signals. Certain parameters indicated the existence of exotic amino acids not registered in Earth's biosphere. This meant one of two things: either unknown chemistry generates these signals, or Atlas holds biochemistry previously unseen on Earth. Even more captivating was the fact that the thermal impulses recorded by Webb occurred with regular periodicity, resembling the rhythm of breathing. The peaks of emissions were clearly synchronized, like the inhales and exhales of a primitive organism. Did this object have internal mechanisms regulating temperature or pressure? In one instance, Webb recorded an energy spike identical to the profile of organic fermentation, raising questions that scientists had not even considered. Could microbial colonies be inside, protected by kilometers of stone or metal shell? Some speculated they were companions from another system, transported light years in their protective vessel. But soon, a new theory emerged. What if the object not only contains life, but is life itself? A colossal, interstellar organism, submerged in darkness, and now awakening as it approaches the warmth of our sun. While this is just a hypothesis, it becomes increasingly difficult to completely reject it each day. Evolution at the level of stars can lead to the emergence of completely unusual forms of life. Gigantic cosmic beings that feed on cosmic radiation and depend on magnetic fields formed not by the Earth, but by interstellar pressures. If this is really so, we could be on the verge of the first contact, not related to technology, but to biology, which will radically change our ideas about alien life forms. If the three Atlas represent a living organism or contain something biological, science will face a serious challenge that questions the fundamental ideas about the origin, distribution, and forms of life. For a long time, astrobiology focused on exoplanets located in the habitable zone, where conditions for liquid water and an Earth-like atmosphere exist. However, Atlas suggests a completely different story, where life can travel through space in comet-like capsules or evolve as large organisms far from planetary systems. Comparisons with panspermia, the theory that life can spread across galaxies via meteorites, comets, or even artificial probes, have already been made. However, most of these models assume the existence of dormant cells or bacteria that awaken only upon reaching a suitable planet. In contrast, Atlas appears to be a metabolically active object. This indicates the existence of stable biological processes far from the stars, which has no analogs in earthly science. However, the consequences could be much more extensive. If this object moves with intent and its radiation displays complex patterns, could this be a form of communication? In the bursts of thermal radiation, clear distributions can be observed, possibly transmitting signals at frequencies unknown to us. Several radio observation stations, including the Alina telescope array, began monitoring the presumed path of Atlas and its bodies for electromagnetic pulses, although so far without convincing results. Nevertheless, the research has already begun. Even the very understanding of the scale of life may require a revision. Terrestrial biology rarely exceeds the size of a whale for active organisms. However, in conditions of low gravity and increased radiation, different laws apply. Atlas may turn out to be a floating macroorganism or a biotechnical hybrid beyond human imagination. Philosophers and theologians have already begun the discussion. If Atlas is alive, is it intelligent? Does it show curiosity or just drifts? And most worryingly, what if he is watching us? Each new observation by EB only intensified this uncertainty. However, one fact remains unchanged. He is still approaching. The object slows down slightly, shifting to a slower trajectory between Earth and Mars, getting closer to us. According to NASA and the European Space Agency, the predicted trajectory of 3 Atlas will bring it into our vicinity relative to the end of 2026. It will pass about 27 million kilometers from Earth, which is about 70 times the distance to the Moon. This is not a collision, but a unique opportunity for observations. And now, the turning point arrives. The speed of Atlas underwent barely noticeable changes that cannot be explained solely by gravitational effects. It maneuvers, not sharply, but smoothly, vectorially. This may indicate controlled navigation or internal changes in mass distribution. Perhaps this is related to the natural gas emissions of the comet. However, no jets or eruptions have been observed. This method of course correction without visible signs of thrust suggests the existence of mechanisms that we currently know nothing about. NASA quietly formed a highly skilled task force to evaluate a flyby mission with a probe, aiming to launch it before Atlas leaves the inner solar system. Interagency discussions are even underway about the possibility of a manned mission for observation, although this is still just an idea. As the object approaches, telescopes both on Earth and in orbit increasingly focus on it. The EB has planned to observe it monthly. Spectrometers record any new emissions. Teams engaged in planetary defense, usually assessing the risks of asteroid collisions, are also involved in the project. Not because Atlas poses a danger, but because it is different. Whatever it is, it did not come alone. It brings stories, possibly from another system, another form of life. Its time in our sky is limited. As soon as it is noticed, as soon as it is measured, it will move on. unless it decides to stay. And with the approach comes a new understanding. Life may not only find a way, perhaps it is already finding us. Through metal and shadow, across light years, something awakens, and the cosmos observes, waiting for our reaction.